So last month I read The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, which has this opening line. As Gregor Samsa awoke from unsettling dreams one morning, he found himself transformed in his bed into a monstrous vermin. That's a pretty good hook. It made me remember that I really love opening lines and closing lines of books. So I thought it'd be fun to put together a video of my favorite book opening lines. I would do one of closing lines, but that would be spoiler filled and I don't want to produce any videos like that. But I thought it'd be fun to put together just some of my favorite lines of books that I've read that I have on the shelf to share with you. So if you do like this video, please give me a like and subscribe, and I would love to hear your favorite opening lines in the comments below. So this is not in any particular order, although I am saving my very favorite until last. So these are just 15 opening lines of books that I do enjoy. The first one is from The Hobbit. And we all love the opening line from The Hobbit. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Simple, but it gets you. What's a hobbit? Why does he live in the ground? I want to read on, which is exactly what the first line of a book should do. It should give you that hook that wants you to read the second line. The second one that immediately popped into my brain was from The Martian by Andy Weir. That opening line is, I'm pretty much which tells you so much about the main character in this book, and it tells you a lot about what the humor is about and what the story is going to be about. And a simple opening line like that just really hooked me right away. Another opening line that I really love is from The Miracle Life of Edgar Mint by Brady Udall. If I could tell you only one thing about my life, it would be this. When I was 7 years old, the mailman ran over my head. That's a great one. Never forget that one. All right, next one we're going to take from my Sander shelf, and that is from The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. The opening line's a great one. Seth, son Villano, truthless of Shinovar, wore white on the day he was to kill a king. Great opening line, but I have to say, I think if he got rid of the supporting clause, it would be even better. If it read, Seth's son Villano wore white on the day he was to kill a king. I think that's even better, but who am I? But Brandon, if you want a beta reader, I'd be happy to jump in on Stormlight 5 when that comes in. But I do love that opening line. Probably the most famous opening line of any book is from Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief. It was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. What a beautifully crafted sentence. Fantastic. But a classic doesn't have to have a beautifully crafted sentence to be brilliant. Moby Dick, Call Me Ishmael. Or 1984 by George Orwell. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Or Fahrenheit 51 by Ray Bradbury. It was a pleasure to burn. So I'm not sure how many authors are conscious about crafting the perfect opening sentence or closing sentence, but one author that I know is aware of this, because I remember reading an epilogue or a prologue to one of his books where he addressed this, is John Irving. And I love the opening line of A Prayer for Owen Meany. I am doomed to remember a boy with a wrecked voice, not because of his voice or because he was the smallest person I ever knew, or even because he was the instrument of my mother's death, but because he's the reason I believe in God. I'm a Christian because of Owen Meany. The part of that line that always gets me is because he was the instrument of my mother's death. And that just hooks you right in, but there's so much in that sentence. Again, it's another complex sentence, but it really hooks you into what is a fantastic story if you haven't read this book. All right, another one from the Sander shelf. Warbreaker has a really great opening line. It's funny, Vasher thought, how many things begin with my getting thrown into prison. Another one, a lot like The Martian, where it tells you a lot about a character in just one single sentence, as far as the humor of that character. So I do love the opening line of Warbreaker. And of course, I have to have something from Stephen King. It has a very memorable opening line, which is depicted on the cover art here. The terror, which would not end for another 28 years, if it ever did end, began, so far as I know or can tell, with a boat from a sheet of newspaper floating down a gutter swollen with rain. Very, very good. I actually went through the entire Stephen King library that I have here, which is virtually everything that he's written. And King isn't a master of the single sentence hook. He often is a single paragraph guy, but that one was one that just really hooked me right away. One of the more obscure books on this list, but is a fantastic read, made my top 10 the year that I read it, is Hex by Thomas Oldhoyvolt. The opening line is this: Steve Grant rounded the corner of the parking lot behind Black Spring Market in Delhi in time to see Catherine von Weiler get run over by an antique Dutch barrel organ. Good opening line, great book. Angels and Demons by Dan Brown has this opening line: Physicist Leonardo Vetra smelled burning flesh, and he knew it was his own. That's a pretty good one. Dan Brown is the king of the closing line of the paragraph that sucks you in for the next paragraph. He's one of those great thriller writers that's great at that, but this opening line is certainly a great one. Another one I love is The Passage by Justin Cronin. Before she became the girl from nowhere, the one who walked in, the first, the last, and only, who lived 1,000 years, she was just a little girl in Iowa named Amy. I love that one, and it tells you so much about what the trilogy, where it goes, where it ends up. So, so great. And my favorite opening line of any book I've ever read, saved it for last, it's right behind me. The Gunslinger by Stephen King. The man in black fled across a desert, and the gunslinger followed. Just gives me chills just saying it. I love that opening line. It just hooks you in. Who's the gunslinger? Who's the man in black? Why is he chasing him across the desert? And it just hooks you into King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower. Well, that was just a short little video that popped into my head last month when I read Kafka. I would love to hear in the comments section great opening lines of books that you love. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me on Twitter for one-sentence book reviews. We had one-sentence book beginnings. You can get one-sentence book reviews from me on Twitter. Additionally, you can follow me on Goodreads. I love interacting with people on Goodreads because I love seeing what they're reading. And I also love seeing what some of you read that I might recommend. It makes me feel good when I see someone read a book that I recommended and give it 5 stars. So check me out on Goodreads as well. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.